This is the state where time vanishes. You sit down to work at 9 a.m., blink, and suddenly it is dark outside. Hunger disappears and self-doubt goes silent. You aren't just doing a task because you have merged with it completely. Athletes call it being in the zone, and musicians call it the pocket, but psychologists have a more precise term: flow. In 1990, researcher Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi popularized this concept, not as a mystical gift reserved for the elite, but as a biological state accessible to anyone who knows the specific triggers to activate it. Most people assume that when you reach peak performance, your brain lights up like a Christmas tree. But the reality is exactly the opposite. Neuroscientists call the mechanism transient hypofrontality. In plain English, this means the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for your inner critic, your sense of time, and your self-consciousness, actually temporarily shuts down. It doesn't get busier, it goes offline. This is why you lose track of time. The biological clock in your brain resides in that prefrontal area, so when it deactivates, you are plunged into a permanent now. You aren't thinking about the past or worrying about the future, because the part of your brain that processes those concepts has literally stopped talking. Getting into this state requires a very specific friction. Csikszentmihalyi's research identified that flow only happens on the razor's edge between boredom and anxiety. If a task is too easy, your mind wanders. If it is too hard, panic sets in and the prefrontal cortex reactivates to manage the stress. The sweet spot is a challenge that sits roughly 4% above your current skill level. You need to feel like you might fail, but you also need to believe you have just enough competence to pull it off. This balance forces your brain to dump dopamine and norepinephrine into your system, which are chemicals that tighten focus and block out distractions. There is a dangerous myth that flow is the same as relaxation or zoning out. But real flow is aggressive. It requires high energy and intense active engagement. Watching television is passive, while writing complex code or skiing down a black diamond slope is active. Another massive misconception is that you can flow while multitasking, which is biologically impossible. Flow demands singular and total immersion. If your phone buzzes or you switch tabs to check email, the state breaks instantly. It can take up to 20 minutes to get back into that deep focus, meaning a single interruption can effectively ruin a session. Flow isn't a soft, easy vibe. It is a high-performance state that burns serious calories. You don't have to wait for inspiration to strike, because you can engineer this state by setting up 3 non-negotiable conditions. First, you need clear goals. You must know exactly what you are trying to do in the next hour, not work on the project, but write the first 3 paragraphs. Vague goals kill flow because they force your brain to stop and think about what to do next. Second, you need immediate feedback. In video games, you know instantly if you survive the level. In work, you need to see the sentence written or the code compile. Finally, deep embodiment helps. Physical consequences, like the risk of falling in rock climbing, trigger flow instantly, but you can mimic this by setting strict, high-stakes deadlines. This brings us to the concept often confused with flow, the zone. While the terms are often used interchangeably, the zone is typically the athletic application of flow theory. It refers specifically to that moment of unconscious competence, where muscle memory takes over completely. A basketball player in the zone isn't thinking about the mechanics of the shot. Their body is simply executing complex patterns they rehearsed thousands of times. While flow is the psychological state of absorption, the zone is the physical manifestation of it. Understanding the difference between the mental state and the physical output is key to mastering both. Flow is more than just a productivity hack. It is the state where human beings feel their best and perform their best. It turns the struggle of work into the satisfaction of mastery. But there is much more to say about the physical side of this phenomenon, and how elite athletes harness it to break records. If you want to understand specifically how to trigger that physical peak performance, check out our deep dive video on the zone state right here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.